So, welcome back from the lunch break. I hope everybody enjoyed the massage. If not, the girls will be around some hours. So, and welcome to the next presentation from Bernd Ahlers from the Greylock project and from Michael Friedrich from the Icinga2 project. So, enjoy.
Yeah, hey. Great to see so many people after lunch.
So let's get the party started.
Yep.
Before we actually start, it was like in January, I think, when Leonard Koopman, the founder of the Greylock project, asked about some doing Nagios checks and monitoring and stuff like that. There was a Twitter conversation with Jan Doberstein about it. And then we decided, well, we could actually meet and do stuff together. That was on OSDC, and then, yeah, we could do OSMC. And yeah, well, last week there was some issue with schedules and dates and stuff, and Leonard couldn't come. So we said, well, what can we do? So Bernd is not Leonard, but Bernd is really good at what he does. At least in the, I saw that in the last like 70 hours or something like that. So just a short overview for the next like 15 minutes or 1 hour. Short introduction, who we are, which tools are actually involved, like Graylog2 and Icinga2, some sort of historical overview, how to deal with logs, how to actually combine the logs and the monitoring stuff, a demo, an outlook for the future, some resources, and also then in the end some Q&A. But if you have questions, just please raise your hand and we'll try to answer it during the talk. I think that's the best idea about it. So.
Yeah, as Michael said, I'm Bernd. I'm from Hamburg, Germany, and I work at Torch in Hamburg, where I work on Graylog2 since May this year. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm from Austria originally, at NETWAYS since 2 years. Like I live in Nuremberg, I don't just go there and like 5 hours at home and going here. So I'm on the Icinga team since 2009. I'm maintaining the 1.x branch and also developing Icinga2. And I'm an application developer at NETWAYS, and you recognize my nickname on Twitter, the forums, and stuff like that. So I think you know me somehow. So for the tools, it's Graylog2.
Yeah.
It's you again.
So how many of you know Graylog2, actually? Okay, keep your hands up if you're using it right now. Keep your hand, okay. Anyone who doesn't use it anymore? At least one, okay, cool. Graylog2 is a system for central log management, log and event management. That was started by Leonard, who couldn't be here today, in 2010. It was an open source project developed in his free time. It started with a Java server process and a Ruby on Rails web frontend. In 2012, Leonard founded a company around that. After seeing lots of usage and from all over the world, and Torch is currently 8 engineers who are working full time on Graylog2. So so you can basically send all your log data there. We accept different inputs like syslog and also plain text files, and then you have some like filters, like Logsesh has, for example. It's called extractors, where you can actually extract some information to build structured log messages from your syslog input, for example. And we also have a custom log format. It's called GELF. It's not just Thomas Gelf from NETWAYS, but so it's called Greylock Extended Log Format. That's the acronym for that. And so you can actually send structured data from your applications or machines to Graylog2 server directly without having to employ some regex stuff to extract data from unstructured data. So Yeah, but we'll have more of that later. Also in 2012, there was a big rewrite happening, which was finished this year's February with the version 0.20. There's been a lot of work gone into the server process, and also the web interface got completely rewritten. So there's no Ruby on Rails anymore. That's now written in Play, and that simplified stuff like deployment. So we just need a JVM, like for the server, and the same now for the web interface. So in that version also, a REST API got introduced. So the web interface is using the REST API of the server to do all the stuff. So everything that the web interface can you do is done via the API and the server. So everything the web interface can do, you can also do with custom scripts, or you can integrate applications like Icinga Web 2 with a plugin, for example, if you want, or other stuff. Yeah, the current version is 0.91.3. We are about to release the next version, I think, next week. So, and yeah, we're mostly working on performance and stability right now. But I think we also have a future roadmap stuff, so we can talk about that then. Yeah, just a quick overview of the architecture of Graylog2. On the top, you have your message sources, which can be syslog daemons, applications that send Gelf messages. They are sent to the Greylock server, where all the processing and all the inputs are running, and the messages will then get stored into Elasticsearch eventually. We also have MongoDB in the stack for stuff like configuration data and some status data, but there are no messages. So all the messages go into Elasticsearch, and they don't go into MongoDB. Some people still think, because it used to be that way, that all the messages go into the MongoDB. That's not the case. So on the bottom, not sure if you can see, is the Greylock web interface, which talks to the Greylock server via the REST API, as mentioned before. And on the side, you have, for example, you can use the API for custom reporting scripts or custom subscribers when you want to receive alerts, stuff like that. So, yeah.
So we are going short into Icinga 2 because we already had it yesterday in Bernd's presentation, and I think the most significant part is for this presentation, or combining it with like tools like Graylog2. It's just a monitoring core engine. It checks things, alert, notifications. You can have backend interfaces and also use several user interfaces for visualization, reporting, and stuff like that. One of the big differences compared to Icinga 1 or Nagios is it's scalable for real-time monitoring. You can actually run checks in seconds, or like sometimes milliseconds if the plugin provides that. And that's something, maybe I want to do that with logs and checking every second and say, okay, or every 10 seconds, did something change? Is there an alert somewhere? And that's mainly the thing we are trying to show or trying to solve here. Then also some sort of more dynamic configuration, which we won't go into detail, but it helps a lot when you're just creating some checks and applying that on multiple hosts, multiple servers, like Bernd already showed yesterday. Yeah, the cluster stuff and the client stuff, which would help us actually installing the agent on the Graylog2 server and checking stuff if necessary, if it's a distributed setup. Well, thing is, there's database, there's live status, there's perf data, graphite socket. The Gelf writer is new in 2.2, which was basically a project, or it was an idea, it was a prototype, and then it became code, which was released upstream or integrated upstream. So it was contributed by Mario Sturm from the Greylock project. We will show that later on how that works and how to combine that. You have the the plugins, you have the stable version from Monday, you have the stack on the side, and that's basically it how Icinga 2 works. Some stuff for the historical thing, how you deal with logs. The thing is, in my previous workplace, I was working at the University of Vienna, and we had some project to combine the DNS servers and the name server logs and stuff like that, query logging, and also syslog. And you're building a big rsyslog or syslog ng server and push your logs over there. You have custom scripts running. You're doing some sort of regex match on whatever could be wrong, or could be an alert, there could be some pattern which should be alerted or should be dealt with in case of like someone is DDoSing your name server and you would just ban him or something like that. You always got the problem how to deal with that in terms of, well, how to integrate it into Icinga or Nagios or any other core to just have the notifications. You could somehow create a cron job and do it yourself, but basically you want it in your stack. You do not want to have any external dependencies or stuff like that. So it was also a challenge, it could be a challenge. Maybe Splunk and other commercial tools solved that, but when I just looked up how much you pay for 1 gigabyte per day on the website, you can look that up, that's over there. I was like, oh, maybe not. They have good tools, but right now, like Graylog2 or Logstash, the Arc stack, that's something which is free, which is open source, which you can use, you can combine it. And from my experience, it's also like when the DevOps stuff and the guys are talking, they always say, well, you have some sort of logs thing, you have the monitoring, you have the metrics, you have like Graphite, CollectD and stuff, and you have some sort of configuration management like Puppet, Ansible, Chef, Salt, whatever. And you just need to combine that, and it could be an option. You can actually use all of them, but you can also say, well, it's only the logs and the monitoring. And thing is, one of the advantages of some sort of central log management is like you can actually collect it at one place, because sometimes it's like when you're checking the remote syslog, calling something or check plugin via SSH, you have the problem if the server goes down. You might see an alert in Icinga or Icinga 2, says, okay, well, something died, but you don't really have a context about the historical happenings, except you're fetching that somewhere else and copying locally or putting it somewhere for notification. But sometimes it's also important to see maybe there was a network outage or something which influences a lot of servers and a lot of stuff in your network, and you want to just correlate these events into something big and see, okay, the web server for the shop didn't really die, there was something else happening, some interruption in the connection, and you can actually combine that and see that in your dashboard for your log monitoring, for your log collection management. And thing is also, when it comes for some sort of pattern matching for alerts and stuff like that, I always have problems to find the right regex for everything, or some sort of application log pattern, which is sometimes solved better with Logstash or Graylog2 with the input types. Sometimes a political issue, I don't know, but I prefer it not to get that much complicated into opening some regex compiler on the net. One thing too, which I experienced, is when you are checking or grabbing the syslog file or log files, you need to keep track of the seek index. If you're opening it again, you don't want to start it at the beginning. You need to do some sort of rate calculation or stuff like summary or average to actually check it against the threshold you defined. Well, that's something which did work in the past years, but nowadays there are actually tools sometimes solving that, doing that in a better way. You can install them, you can use them, you can actually put them on the same server where the monitoring is running on, but you can also put them on their cloud or their cluster and make it high available if you prefer it. Yeah, and you have to define the input types like the get format, the extended log format, and I have some sort of API I can query with the monitoring tool actually. So I get something which is defined or has a certain pattern match defined on the log management tool, and I just say, okay, please check that API for that stream, for that alert stuff, which is configured on the other side. So the guys managing the logs already know about it, and I can actually say, okay, well, if the Apache server died or some incident happened or some whatever is critical in your system happened, it's just not the logic inside the plugin. So the actual thing is, I prefer to query an API for just like, give me something and I can actually pass that JSON or whatever and generate an event or an alert for Icinga or for Nagios. There are other attempts to just like have something running on the server, a cron job or whatever, and sending a passive report for that. Like the backup of all servers was okay, the log was passed, and you actually get an idea about it, sending it passively back into the core as a check result. One thing which is sometimes hard is like, what's the current state for being it an alert? Like, is it running? Is it critical? Is it unknown? Is it undefined? Does it depend on some sort of like 10 events in the past 5 minutes? Or is it, how do you actually configure it, triggering some sort of notification, alert, and also state history for SLA reporting and stuff like that? Or even to trigger some sort of event handler and saying, okay, I don't really care about it, what's happening. My event handler says IP table shut down or flush or whatever, and no one can actually access the box anymore because it's dead anyway. There are plugins for that, for checking this, for natively checking APIs or log files. I think the most famous one for log files remotely is, or even on your syslog server, is check log files. I also found check Splunk, which is open source. Splunk is not. I think it's not. So the check plugin is free and the rest not. And you nowadays have for the log management tools like Graylog2 or Logstash. Yeah, for Graylog2 you have an alert API, which is basically a combined stream based on patterns you define and say, okay, in this period of time, some event can happen 3 times, and when it happens 4 times with that defined string or state, it triggers an alert, and it's visible on that stream API. You can access that with a unique identifier using the REST API. Or a different attempt, you have some sort of callback plugin, you're triggering a notification from that, and you send it back passively to the core.
Yeah, we'll show some kind of example for that later.
Yes.
Okay.
And for Logstash, there's the Nagios output format, which is kind of passive event through the command pipe for host and service output. Some stuff is deprecated in the documentation and some stuff works, so it's the only thing I found during my research about that. Not sure if is there anything else like a REST API. So some theoretical questions when actually creating the presentation, asking myself what would I expect from combining logs with my monitoring or actually integrating it into the stack. because I know that when installing Logstash, you have, or Graylog2, you have like Java, ElasticSearch, MongoDB, yeah, the actually Icinga stuff. You need to install maybe a check plugin for Graylog2 and stuff like that. Or if you're going like natively and using like Jackie log files and just the plain native files, that both ways work. And it depends if you can actually extend your stack and use the tools, or if you just stick with what you have. That shouldn't be a hard choice, but it should be opened or left open. Do I want to add such passive events to my streams if I have them defined in the log management tool? Or do I just want to query something which gives me data? That's also something I need to get to know of or decide in the first place before actually just putting something together, because it doesn't make much sense to think about the alert after installing something or everything else together and say, yeah, I need to start new, let's just remove it. It's not really an option, but sometimes it's better if you just started wrong. Something which is also important is like you have log alerts. You have a critical event in your Icinga. You have it in your dashboard. You have it in your Icinga Web 2, Web 1, wherever it's possible. You want to use that. You want to visualize that. You want to have it like influenced your reporting in a certain way. You also want to send an actual notification to the users. What information do you give those users? Do you have some sort of unique URL you can access and send it to the user, and the user clicks on it and says, well, it's broken, I need to fix it. Or if you're just fetching some text or output, the last 10 lines, and sending that to the user and say, well, don't click a link, just fix that because it's broken and it's your fault, or not. Well, and I think some of those ideas, or some of those things are in this talk, some are not. But yeah, well, some things are really custom in certain scenarios, so it should be not the solution, but more of an idea providing talk, maybe. Yeah. You will show us how it actually works then in the demo. The thing is, when looking about the event streams or alert streams and actually pushing something into your monitoring core and triggering some sort of event passively received, I asked myself, or we asked ourselves, what do we need? Well, we need some sort of API, which is right now the command pipe for feeding stuff, or the live status socket for feeding the same stuff like external commands. We need an Graylog2 plugin which triggers an alert via callback. There are certain documentation for that. There is on Google a lot of ideas and a lot of stuff which is sometimes a bit creepy, like NSCA and some sort of executing something which does something, which I'm not sure does actually work, but the how-to looked good. You can actually abuse the notification plugin to do that, which was also interesting to read. And I don't know if the custom rake plugin actually works in the rewritten Graylog2, but it was also rather popular when you just fire Google and say, well, give me something because I want to do that.
Yeah, so if you look up some of those links, you actually have to check if it's older than 2014, it's probably not going to work anymore, so take that with a grain of salt, but yeah.
The thing is, I'm just more of a user. I don't really care what's inside Graylog2. I just want to install the plugin and make it work. And it was like, what's out there and what does the community actually use? Because it's a similar example to how to combine cacti and nagios. That's also sometimes a bit creepy. So the thing is, the problem here is if you have an external server for Graylog2, and Icinga 2 or Icinga 1, Nagios, you have no unified and simple and also secure core API yet. So the command pipe and SSH tunnel and stuff like that, it works somehow, but yeah, you do not really want to do that. Yeah. And one of the ideas which came up during the discussion, if there is a possible solution or if you can do that, actually implement that in Graylog2 into the web interface, was like, yeah, well, we could also write a check plugin, which we will talk later about, and install an Icinga2 agent, Icinga2 client on the Graylog2 server, and just query the API over there if that makes sense from a certain, I do not want to expose the REST API over the network, for instance. Yeah. So, the other way around, not push, but pull, like the check plugin. That was mainly the other way around, which means you have the REST API, you have the alert streams, you get some data out of it. You have like JSON, if you ask it for the stream, and it tells you, well, there is an alert or there's nothing. So nothing means mainly it's green, it's okay. And you need an Icinga check plugin or an Ahlers check plugin for that. There are some plugins around, they work. You can wrap them, you need to compile the check Greylock stream with the underscores, like in Bash with CJSON, some rather creepy stuff, because you need to get packages, so precompiled binaries for that. And the idea was, well, can we do that? And actually, Mare Sturm wrote a new check plugin, like in 3 days. Yeah,
it's a really simple check plugin for Icinga, which basically just checks the stream APIs if there have been any alerts in streams. So I will show you later what streams mean. So yeah, so you can have alerts in them, and this plugin just checks the REST API of Graylog2, and then Icinga knows, okay, for this stream of logs of for this type of log, there have been that many alerts, stuff like that.
I think the next slide is actually a screenshot. Yes.
Yeah. So
it's your turn.
Yeah. So as said, in Graylog2, we have this notion of streams, where you can say, okay, all my web server logs are in stream web servers, all my mail logs are in the stream mail. And so you basically say, okay, if the log message contains this and that, then it's an Apache log, or if it's of a type, when it's structured and has a type of your application name or whatever, then you can put it in a certain stream, and which is some kind of pre-built filter. So you can, when you click on that, you only see the logs of your Apache logs or application logs, stuff like that. And on those streams, you can add stream rules. What we see is actually how you add the stream rules. So a stream rule is say, okay, service state is okay, then it should go into the Icinga services okay stream, something like that. So I will also show that later. Then we have this simple check plugin, which takes some mandatory parameters. So you have to pass in the URL for the Graylog2 server API, username, password. We will extend it later to also work with tokens, so we don't always have to add your username and password there. And then you also have a mandatory parameter of the stream ID. So that's the ID in the Graylocks, the ID of the stream in the Graylog2 system. So, and Icinga just calls that plugin like every other regular check plugin, and you see the output in Icinga. So
there's actually the check plugin is on the Graylog2 repositories, and there's a Icinga2 check command available for that. So it should be then somewhere on Icinga Exchange, but we didn't really have time this week, so that will be up on that, so everyone can just download it.
Yeah.
And you can actually call that like every second, which we will do later on in the demo.
So you can download that from the GitHub page. There's a releases page with a binary tarball, and you can also compile it yourself, of course. It's written in Go, so it's pretty simple. And it has no runtime dependencies. And but we also have binary packages for CentOS and Debian-based distributions in our Graylog2 repositories, package repositories. So yeah, then come to combining Graylog2 and Icinga for real. Just go ahead, yeah. So in Icinga, you have certain events that are triggered, like check results and state changes and notifications and stuff like that. And I think actually 1 month ago at the DevOps days in Ghent, I talked to Bernd from NETWAYS, and we talked about how to integrate stuff like that. And there was also the talk with Michael and Leonard already going on. And after DevOps days, Marius just sat down and looked at some similar plugin, which was the Graphite plugin, which also just sends some data to a TCP socket. So basically just took that and wrote a Gelf writer plugin for that. So and he said that was really easy to do. So seems to be the Icinga 2 stuff is really nice internally. So I think it was 2 or 3 days that it took, and then he sent the code to Michael, and yeah.
Yeah, we just did a code review. The code was good. It was actually easy to integrate, and we said, well, we had the feature freeze, but we extended it somehow, like always. No, we were just talking on IRC, and yeah, this could work, and we need to fix that. And it was like, oh yeah, nice, okay, you can code, I can code, and
yeah. Yeah, but since the 2.2 release on Monday, there's this Gelf plugin that you can simply enable with the Icinga command line. Icinga 2 feature enable Gelf and restart your Icinga instance. And of course, there's also some configuration file where you specify the host name and the port for the Graylog2 server. It's also just only 2 lines, I guess.
Yeah, and the default, if it's listening on localhost 12.900, it works out of the box. So
yeah, so and what you then get is actually in Graylog2, you get all the events. Like I said, the check results, state changes, notifications. I think there will be more in the future.
Yeah, it was like, what do we actually need? That was basically the basic set, but we can actually fetch more of that. Yeah. But it's also up to you what maybe you require, or what are the ideas of the community, and say, well, we need that. And we say, well, let's do it.
Yeah. So and it's actually nice since it's using the Gelf format, so you don't have it's already structured. So as soon as the log messages arrive in Graylog2, you have the structured log messages in there. You can filter on that based on state or on text in the plugin output or whatever. We'll see later what kind of fields are in there. So.
And actually, the nice thing about Gelf is that that's a de facto standard. So Logstash also supports it. So it's not that exclusive to Graylog2, and everyone can benefit out of that.
Yeah.
That's something for me, I think, which I mentioned before. When there's something happening, like some strange Apache log or firewall log is going on, and you're actually triggering a notification, be it like from Graylog2 or be it from the Icinga core or Nagios, whatever core does send you at 4 AM or 5 AM, well, something is broken, this line, you should just fix that or just look into that. Sometimes you just have not the context to know what's actually going wrong. And when I'm actually getting an SMS and well, it's nice, but no, can wait. The colleague is coming at 8, and somehow it fixes itself. Hopefully, just put a downtime and whatever acknowledgement. So without expire time, there's the idea to have the Graylog2 REST API available with the alert stream to actually fetch the data from it, to use like the stream ID notification rules with Icinga 2, to actually have that included, you reuse that as custom attribute, have a custom notification script, which is not yet there because no time and stuff, but maybe we will do that later, provide an example how to actually do that. But it should be rather simple to just integrate it and do some curl or weak chat or whatever from the REST API and actually present it to the user who should actually fix the problem then. Because having just one line of output and saying, well, something is wrong is not really helpful. And maybe you can also combine other information from other servers and actually get the context and see, well, the 20 lines of text tell me more, and it's just one restart or fix the PHP code the developer broke on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. That's a bit of a brain fuck, but we also had the idea to just writing the Icinga 2 events using the Gelf writer into Graylog2 or into the Gelf interface, and then create an alert stream only based on the notifications or based on the check results, just filtering for like everything being not okay or stuff like that. Maybe it's just an idea or some sort of a prototype stuff, but it actually helps you to debug Icinga 2 in a certain way to say, well, I have that check history and I want to correlate that with different history, and why is that check not happening, or why is it failing? Is there some sort of correlation in that? Why does the cluster not work? Do I have multiple instances with the Icinga 2 cluster combined in one interface, and I can see, well, the SSL certificate does not match, and the other one says, well, different error. And it's also some sort of idea to help everyone understand some certain Icinga 2 features which are just logged in that, and also filter that, have a dashboard and say, well, my Icinga 2 works good because I have a different watchdog instance somewhere, just checking the Graylog2 alert stream or some.
I think especially with a cluster setup, if you have a cluster setup of Icinga 2, it's really nice to have all the logs of all the Icinga 2 nodes in the cluster in one central place. So you don't have to go to every machine and grab logs files and stuff like that.
That's not yet implemented, but that's also some stuff I would actually implement it when just refining how the cluster error messages work, and just saying, well, you have a defined stream and you can actually monitor your monitoring like recursive and stuff.
Okay, that's basically a screenshot of the Graylog2 interface. So we will just, which also shows some Gelf messages from Icinga 2. But I think we could just skip to the demo, and we're doing in time. Okay.
Somehow in time.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but we have a virtual machine here, which you also can find on GitHub, I guess. Not sure if it's linked somewhere.
We have the resources linked later on the slides.
Yeah, exactly. So we built a Vagrant Box with Icinga 2 and Greylock 2 on that. So if you want to play with that yourself, you can just download the Git repo and use Vagrant to use the same setup as I do now. So we have a Icinga 2 instance running on here. We have some random checks which are failing randomly, I guess. And so that you can see, this is on the Icinga side, and now we'll see how that. Oh, that looks weird, but okay. Like the last 30 minutes. So this is the Greylock 2 interface, the web interface. As you've seen, it just starts with a basically empty page. You can select the time frame you want to search in your logs. And if you don't enter any query and just hit the search button, you'll just get any events in that time frame. So as you can see, Icinga 2 is humming along, and the events get sent to Greylock 2. And we're also having we also have a plugin in Greylock 2 which generates random HTTP log messages. So you can, if you want to play with that, you start that and you have some log messages. So that's also running. So you can see there's some messages coming in. This here, for example, is from the load generator. You can click on that and see the details on the right. So it's also actually structured already. So you have an attribute for the action, which was show. There was some controller involved in the application, which is the post controller, and the HTTP method, response code, stuff like that. So this here is actually a message from, it's kind of slow, okay, from Icinga. So that's the output of one of the random check plugin, basically, which sends hello from hostname. I think that's built into Icinga. It's a random thing.
It's just a built-in embedded check because you don't just want to fork for random and stuff like that. So it helps debugging and testing.
So, as you can see here, it's also already structured because it's sending in GELF format. So we have the command that the check command that got executed, the host name, the message, which is that's a plugin output.
That's a notification type.
That's a notification, right. So that's a notification type, which service, which source, which state, and it's a service notification. So it's also routed into a stream which is called catch-all, which we just created. So there is some stream where all messages get routed to. You can also see here, I hope, this is actually output from a check from Icinga. So you also have metadata like the check source, what's the current check attempt, the host name, the last hard state, the last state, max check attempts, the actual message, the service name, service state, critical, and so on. So what you can now do, for example, is let's say you want to see all of the critical service states. You can just click on that, and then the query field gets updated. So let's search for that. It's kind of the same because there are a lot of critical messages. I want to show. Yeah. So for example, if you now filtered for all the service states critical, let's say you want to create a dashboard out of that, so that you can have that running on some screen or something like that, so that you always see, okay, we have in the last 30 minutes we had X critical alerts, something like that. So you can see here it's a bit difficult to see, I guess, because it's pretty small buttons. It says the search result is about 5,000 messages, or about 6,000, and then you have this little thingy here where you can say, okay, I want to add that to my dashboard, and there is currently no dashboard, so I want to create one, which I name critical status, whatever. So I guess I have to go back to that. Yeah. So I say service state critical. Now I can just add it to my dashboard. Give it a name. And then I can go to the dashboards page, which shows all the dashboards you created. So you can have several dashboards. And you just click on that. And then, for example, you have this counter, which gets updated every few seconds, and shows you the count of critical service states in the last 30 minutes, for example. So what we can also do is, for example, let's go here, and well, it's a bit hard to see, but okay. It's again the service state field. You have this small cork here, the same. We can say generate chart, which doesn't work. Okay. What did I want to do? I think I wanted to do something different. The problem is the value is not numeric, and that because of that I cannot generate a chart from that. So I want to do this here over time. So now I have the number on the dashboard and also the graph over the last 30 minutes for the critical status. And as you see, it updates automatically. You can also do if you want all, if you want to see all the different service states, there's this quick values. And we only have critical, of course, because we only search for critical. But if we search for everything and say, is it again? Again, for service states, quick values, you see an overview of which service states are there and how many of those. And we also can add that to the dashboard, for example. So now we have all three things on your dashboard. On our dashboard, it looks a bit, yeah, because of the small screen size, it looks a bit weird. But there you have the table, and it's also automatically updating every 10 seconds, I guess. So that's dashboards. Then we also have streams, which I mentioned earlier. This is some kind of catch-all stream, which just has a rule that says every message that has a message field, which is basically every message, should go into the stream. What we can do there on the stream, we can manage alerts. So we have the stream of logs for different types, or as here for all. And what we can do is we can add alert conditions. So for example, we have field value conditions. So if a field has a certain value, or if the first one is message count condition. So if you say we have 10 messages of this in the last 5 minutes, please trigger an alert. So we configured one here, pardon me, which says one alert is triggered when there are more than 3 messages in the last 5 minutes. So there's a grace period of 10 minutes. So once you have alerted, wait at least 10 minutes before you alert again. So what you can have for these stream alerts is also alert callbacks. So if one alert is triggered, you want, for example, have an email. So we have email alert callbacks. And we also have one HTTP alarm callback, which sends a HTTP message to any web service or stuff like that. So we also have plugins for that. We have plugins for XMPP and for Slack, and not sure what else. I think something else as well. PagerDuty, for example, if you want to receive SMS. So on those stream alerts, you can have callbacks if you want, or like we do with Icinga, you don't configure alert callback, you just configure the alert condition, and then you configure Icinga to alert on that stream. So that's what you see here, basically. It says critical. Okay. It says critical, one alert triggered for stream catch-all. So in Graylog2, we have, pardon me, you set up the streams, you configure an alert condition, and then you can just configure Icinga to check the Graylog2 API and see if there have any alerts been triggered for that. And then Icinga can do whatever it wants, notifications and stuff like that. So that's actually this check plugin that we wrote for that. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it.
You're done?
Yeah.
So, okay, then let's go back to the slides.
Sure.
How can you get rid of this message? I mean, you have a notification, message comes in.
Yeah.
But how do you get, when you say yes, okay,
You mean in Icinga? In Icinga, or?
can you clear it, or can you only acknowledge it?
You would actually acknowledge the problem in
Yeah.
Icinga, and basically you'd say, well, in Graylog2 you have it like you have an alert in the past 30 minutes. So if the alert is gone, if it's passed away, the check recovers, and then it's basically gone. There could be a better method to just clear the event in Graylog2. That's actually a very interesting idea,
Yeah.
which we should talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes.
Yeah, because it's
Good point. Yeah.
not to
Yeah.
keep it forever in
No.
minutes acknowledgements, and
Yeah.
at least for us as a statistic. So
Delete everything. RM minus RF.
yeah,
No. Okay, that was the demo stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's some things we want to do in the future. I want to do together a bit like that, because we actually have the Vagrant Box. We did that together. We have the check plugins. We have like the Gulf writer inside Icinga 2, which we maintain both, or both projects work together.
Yeah.
We want to encourage you to build your own stack. You just say you want to use that, you don't want to use that, you maybe want to monitor the monitoring cores or not. We actually want Graylog2 streams like in Icinga Web 2 somehow, because I'm not a web developer, but I'm asking Mr. Gelf so for that. Well, I would ask him, or you can do that. I want more, or we want more events in Graylog2, like the cluster messages, like more stuff, because there's actually more happening inside a core, which may help you when something happens or something breaks, basically, and it's not really somehow something which should trigger a notification or trigger an alert, but you actually want to filter it, make it visible to your dashboards, and correlate it or combine it with different events happening wherever possible in your network, in your infrastructure. We also want some sort of API for Icinga 2, which is on the roadmap somewhere in 2015, when there's time again. We also want to have, like, we always have the problem with the host service objects thing you have in Nagios or Icinga, which you want to get rid of if you're just sending in a log message for whatever event that is. Maybe you don't have that relationship, but we want to find a way to generate objects from these alerts and allow the user to say, well, it's a log event. In Icinga 2, it's treated like host service, and you can actually acknowledge that and add that to your stack, and you don't need to write any config file or whatever for that. And also provide more examples for like such stream rules for the monitoring stack, and say, well, we have some examples in mind. You can provide your own examples. We can write documentation for that. We can just extend the stack and say, well, let's just do it together and benefit from each other. And maybe you have an idea too, and we think about that too. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think it would actually be really nice to have access to log messages in Icinga 2 Web, for example. So if you as an admin, you're on call and you get paged, you log into Icinga Web 2 in the future, and you see some alert. It would be nice to have in the same interface to have like the last 50 log messages from this host or for this service that's getting alerts and stuff like that. So that's possible because Icinga Web 2 is extensible, and Graylog2 provides an API, so for everything basically. So that should be possible and not too hard to do actually. And I think it would be really nice.
Yeah, and I think that's the resources, which just means there's some URLs on it. There's also the Vagrant Box, which can be just cloned from the Git repository. You need to recursive clone it because it has some Puppet modules inside. But actually you can use it on Windows, Mac OS X, Linux, just installing Vagrant Virtual Box in Ruby, and just play around what Bernd did show in the demo. Yeah. And yeah, just use it and try to use it, because it's fun to play with, and you don't need to really care about how the tools are working together, how they are installed. You just get a playground. You can configure Icinga 2. You can play around with Graylog2, yeah, and it's just easy.
We also want to keep that up to date in the future, so we'll update that with new Greylock releases and also with new Icinga releases. So I think it's currently using the beta, but that will get updated to the latest release. And
it's actually using the snapshot, so we're actually far beyond 2.2 right now. So no, it's Bernd will also join us on the Icinga team for just maintaining stuff together in the Vagrant stuff and Greylock stuff, and we just keep pushing forward, and maybe next year we talk about whatever great API we created. So Yeah,
I think we have
that's
5
it.
minutes for questions, I guess.
Yes.
So, any questions? Yeah. Thanks.
For monitoring Greylock itself, is there anything, because I looked around, couldn't find anything, things like streams that are blocked because too much CPU load or indexing errors or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Didn't I find anything, or is there anything?
I think there's no tool for that, but we of course have all the APIs available, and we have metrics, all the metrics for all the different components in the Graylog2 server available via the API. So
We still have to write a message.
yeah, at least for now.
I was surprised.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I didn't know Graylog2, and I'm pretty stunned about the tool. Really, really nice.
Thanks.
So I thought like Splunk is the only option, but it's not. I think like the ultimate test for something like this is actually to do a check on potentially successful SSH attacks over like 2 years. Did you try something like this?
No, not yet. So you mean, like, you set it up and want to feed it all the logs from 2 years, or after you've installed
Yeah,
it?
have a SSH gateway with a lot of traffic, with a lot of people actually trying to get in with like long-term attacks going over a couple of weeks, and then get a pretty small list of potential successful cases to look at.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, in 2009 or 10, there was a packet, like a very long regular expression available on the Splunk website.
Yeah.
I think for check log files, there's also like a small snippet that does something that but I never tried it.
Yeah.
So, but here, if this works, would be really, really nice.
I mean, you can just feed your SSH logs into Graylog2, right? And we also have on our web page, we have pre-built extractors for that. So you actually load it into your Graylog2 server via the web interface. It's just some blob of JSON. Then you get already structured data over your SSH logs, so which user and stuff like that. Then, of course, you can create a stream rule for that. So, and you put into that long regular expression, and if it's not too CPU intensive, then it will work, I guess.
Okay, but you never tried that?
No, not yet. But a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, just to answer your question, I haven't tried it in Graylog2, but I've done it in Logstash. And yeah, it works. So it's like you mentioned, you just use these patterns and you can track and monitor this kind of stuff.
I mean, everything that can apply regular expressions to log messages and kind of alert on that or route the message to something based on that can do that, I guess. So, yeah. Anyone else over there?
I'm having only a short question because Greylock2 had this awesome party gorilla. Where is it?
Yeah, it's gone for now, but I guess it will come back soon.
No party?
It's still party, but yeah, the gorilla is gone for now. So
okay,
maybe it will come back. He was referring to our previous logo, so that's yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks.